A longtime customer of Bank of America says his accounts were frozen after he failed to turn in a document asking if he was a U.S. citizen. Josh Collins from Kansas City, Missouri, says he thought the notice from the bank was fake, but then his credit card stopped working. It was frozen. When he called Bank of America, a rep asked him if he had received the citizenship form. The bank says the law requires it to keep accurate records on its customers, and from time to time it reaches out to make sure its records are up to date. Mark Hemrick is a senior economic analyst with Bankrate.com. He joins me now from Washington. So, Mark, how could this happen and why? Do you think the timing's significant at all, considering where we are politically right now?
Well, I do think, obviously, that tensions are raised in the environment that we now live in. The president held a news conference today where he was meeting with the top Italian official, and immigration seemed to be the top subject on his mind. So with everything in the news, it's understandable how consumers are concerned about these issues. But let me say one thing right off the bat, Susan. In checking with industry officials as well as consumer advocates, no one is aware of any new requirement that consumers need to provide citizenship documentation with respect to opening an account with a bank. Banks need to know who their customers are. That's a legal requirement in the post 9/11 world. But this seems to be unusual, and it does raise some interesting questions.
Do you think it was unreasonable, I'm assuming the answer is yes, for Bank of America to freeze his account because of this?
Well, it seems unusual, and therefore it seems at some level unreasonable. But I would also say that I think most of us, if we think that a request is coming in that is legitimate, and Lord knows there are so many phishing attacks that were hit these days, whether it's over a cell phone or via email, that seem to be fraudulent. If someone misunderstood and didn't follow up with the bank, obviously it's unfortunate that they then didn't have access to their funds. So I wouldn't say this is in keeping with best practices, to be sure. But again, the post 9/11 world, we needed to track money to find out whether terrorists were doing things that could harm us. In the post financial crisis world, we need to find out whether banks are abiding by appropriate regulations, and that includes identifying their customers and to make sure that money laundering isn't taking place. So
yeah, good point.
I think these are some of the top concerns.
Yeah, the guy that this happened to kind of had a bit of a sense of humor about it. Let's listen here.
You need to know if you're a citizen. And, I'm born and raised in Kansas. Like Superman said, how much more American can you get?
So he's saying, look, I'm from America. What more information do you need?
Well, as a Kansan, I can appreciate that comment very much. But, banks are sort of on their own at some level to determine whether they have verifiable customers. And I would give some advice to most consumers out there these days in doing business with banks is it's not unreasonable to suggest that you should probably have more than one account, because if you have a fraud attack on your account, that basically means that it's frozen when you report that. You need to be able to have access to other funds, and that's why at Bankrate, we advocate aggressively that we need to have emergency funds set aside. And this is a great argument for why you need to have that emergency savings account.
Good point, to have two separate accounts if this does happen to you or something similar. Mark, appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's get you caught up now on the other stories making headlines on this Monday.